Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to work on the interlace embellished ring to go with the bracelet that we just did last week. And thank you so much for all of you who watched the video. I know you've really enjoyed it, and all of you who posted on Facebook. Beautiful work, really gorgeous. So I got a few requests for a ring to go with it. Now we do have the Crystal Chaton ring, which is right here, and we've done that, and I'll link this below if you want a smaller ring with a narrow band. However, I was looking at this and thinking we need a nice big wide band, and I think it came out great. So I'll give you a quick look at it. It's really, it's not super rigid, but it's really kind of rigid. It's like not really flat at all. So if you make it, this is how it will come out, and it's very wide. It's probably about, I don't know, 5/8 of an inch wide, but it fits my hand. And if you like a wider band and you want that sort of that interlace look, I think this will be just perfect for you. All right, so you know what, I'm going to launch right into a materials list. So let me just grab my little tray here, and you don't need that much. So you'll need some 4mm pearls. I'll take this guy off. Some maybe 2mm pearls or 2mm rondelles, or a 2mm fire polish or something to fit around the edge here. This actual edge on it, the pearl edge, is what gives this ring its rigidity. Before you put this pearl edge on, you'll see as you do it, it's all floppy, kind of like peyote, you know, it just kind of lies flat. And then once you get this edging on, whether you do it in these little crystals or you do it in pearls, whatever will fit there. Usually a 2mm will, the more round it is, the better. It just turns it into this really cool, you know, sort of a little more rigid ring, and you can just slide it on and off, which is great. All right, so you'll need, so grab those 2mm pearls or something 2mm, or even, you can even try maybe a Toho 11 because that's a little bit bigger than a Miyuki, and that might fit in there as well. So, you know, you want to determine what's going to fit on the edge. Some 4mm bicones. I've got an 8.2mm Chaton here, and I think this is a Bermuda blue and Swarovski. 11/0 seed beads, 15/0 seed beads. Got to have those bugle beads. Little stop bead, which I've got to put in, so here I'll put this over here as a stop bead. You'll need a size, I would go for a size 11 and 12 beading needle. You can start with a 10, but you might need to go a little smaller. I've got some 8-pound Fireline black satin, and that's all you're going to need. So I'm going to clear this off. We'll get started. So as usual, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you really enjoy seeing my videos. And if you ring the bell, you'll get notified when I upload one. All right, so I'll see you in a minute. Okay, let's get started. So thread your needle with about 5 feet of thread. Put on a stop bead right in the middle. So we're going to pick up and drop down to our stop bead 4 11/0 seed beads. Drop those down. I'm going to sew through the first seed bead after the stop bead. Let me pull in a little bit more. There we go. Just going to make that into a unit. So if you made the bracelet, you know where we're going. I was just changing it up a little bit. So there you go. Pick up 3 11/0 seed beads, exiting right here. Just going to sew through the other side of the seed bead I'm exiting. So I have 2 right angle weave units, one sort of on top of the other, like that. I'm going to pick up a pearl and 4 11/0 seed beads. I'm going to drop those down right to those previous units, and it kind of nestles itself in there. I'm going to sew through the first seed bead after the pearl. Like that. That's what I have. I'm going to pick up 3 11/0s. I'm going to sew through the other side of the seed bead I'm exiting. And if it travels like that, just pull it back. Put your thumb there, pull back. It's very important with this stitch that you keep it nice and tight. So if you have to just give it a pull and push it together, don't worry about it. It will, you know, it'll kind of all push together, might buckle a little bit, but it will all straighten out. And then we're going to pick up a pearl and 4 11-ohs. We're going to drop those down to the previous 2 units, like that. I'm going to sew through the first seed bead after the pearl. And sometimes I'll pull the working thread, that's exiting what I just put on, just to tighten it up. And then just give it a pull, like that. 3 11-oh seed beads. Sew through the other side of the seed bead. You're exiting. That. Pull. Sew through this seed bead, so the side seed bead. I'll call this the bottom seed bead, like that. So I'm just going to let you get to this point and then come back and we'll continue. All right, let's move on. So we're exiting right here, this 11-oh. I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs. I'm going to sew through the other side of the seed bead I'm exiting. Making sure that it's nice and tight. I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs. I'm going to sew through the bottom seed bead of the next unit right here, or side, whatever you want to call it, this one. Okay, just like that. 3 11-ohs. Sewing through the other side of the seed bead I'm exiting, pulling this thread a little bit just to make sure everything stays on nice and tight, like that. 3 11-ohs. Sew through this seed bead right here of the next unit. 3 11-ohs. Sew through the other side of the seed bead you're exiting. Let me just move that tail thread. Like that. Give it a pull. This is what I have. I'm going to sew through the side seed bead here. And then this one. And now I'm set up to put more beads on. So just get to that point and then come back and we'll continue. Okay. Let's pick up 3 11-ohs. Exiting here, the seed bead, sew through the other side of the seed bead you're exiting. Pick up your 4mm bicone, sew through the seed bead of the next unit right here. 3 11-ohs. Sew through the other side of the seed bead you're exiting. Pick up a bicone. Make sure that kind of sits, your thread is pulled pretty tight. There we go. Pick up a bicone. Just pull that. There we go. Better. Okay. Sew through the bottom seed bead, the seed bead right here of the next unit. And that should pop into place. And if it bunches up a little, just take your finger and press it down. It will fit and it will, as you do it, I know I always say this with this particular type of this design, it only looks better the more the bigger it gets. It looks kind of wonky when you start. And then you're going to pick up 3 seed beads and sew through the other side of the seed bead you're exiting. Got ahead of myself there. Sew through this seed bead, so the side seed bead, and this, we'll call it the bottom seed bead right there. Now you're ready to put some more beads on. Should we just continue a little bit? 3 11-ohs, sew through the other side of the seed bead you're exiting. This is the seed bead row. 3 11-ohs through this one. 3 11-ohs, sew through this other side of the seed bead you're exiting. You got it. 3 11-ohs, sew through this one. 3 11-ohs, sew through the other side of the seed bead you're exiting. Sew through the side seed bead and the bottom seed bead right here. Give it a pull, and now you're set up to put some more beads on. So just get to this point and come back and we'll continue. Okay, moving along. So we're exiting here. I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs and sew through the other side of the seed bead. I'm exiting. You got it, bicone. Through this one. 3 11-ohs. Sew through the other side of the seed bead. We're exiting. Bicone. Sew through this one. 3 11-ohs. Sew through the other side of the seed bead you're exiting. Now we have that row on. I'm going to sew through this one and this one right here. And then you're going to do your next just seed bead row. And then when you're done with that row, you're going to put on the final pearl row. So I'll just let you go and do that yourself. So remember, you're doing all seed beads here like we've done. Then you're going to put on a pearl row and then meet me back here and we'll continue. Okay, we're back. So I have the top of the ring done. So that's this part here. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to take the thread we're working with and we're going to continue just with seed bead rows to finish this side of the ring. Then you're going to take your stop bead off, thread a needle, finish just with seed bead rows for this side of the ring. So you're going to meet in the middle when we sew it together. So do you see I haven't added any other pearls or bicones, I just did all seed bead rows and it makes for a really pretty band. Now the band, because it's wide, you'll probably be making it a larger size than your normal size. So don't think, well, I take a size 8 or a 7, I'll make it exactly that size. Wrap it around your finger and make sure, because you want to make sure that it's a good fit. You want it to be able to slide on and off like this. You don't want to fight with it. Right? So just keep going around. The connection is going to be it's going to take up just a teeny bit of room. So just make it almost touching when you hold it around your finger, and you can always take a row off or add a row on if you need to. So get that done. Just going to do it flat right now. Get both sides done until it's about the right size, and then come back and we're going to do the chaton before we sew it together. All right, see you in a few. Okay, we're back. So now I have my entire piece done, and we're going to put on the chaton now. So thread your needle with about 30 inches of thread, put on a stop bead in the middle. We're doing a lot of stop beads in the middle because I want you to be able to, sew down the sides of the ring. All right, so here I am. I'm going to actually sew right through this bicone right here. Just my stop bead is going to just be right there. I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs. So I'm going to use a different, a contrasting color so you can see see up close what I'm doing. And I'll try to pull in super tight. All right, so then sew through the next bicone. So we have on 3 11-ohs, and we're sewing through the bicone right above it. That's going to put on 3 11-ohs, just like that. I'm going to make a turn. So here I'm exiting the bicone. See these 2 seed beads right here that are facing in just the perfect direction? I'm going to sew through one of them. Like that. And then I'm going to add an 11-oh by sewing through this one. So I'm putting an 11-oh in between them. Sew through this one. Then I'm going to make a turn down the bicone. Like that. I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs, and I'm going to sew through the next bicone. Right there. Just turning my piece so it's easy for me to sew. So now I'm exiting this bicone right here. I'm just going to sew through that same seed bead that we did on the other side. So these 2, we're going to work with these 2. I'm just exiting the bicone. I'm going to sew through this one. I'm going to add an 11-oh and sew through the next one. So there are only 2 there that are facing in the right direction. Like that. So now I've added another 11-oh. Now I'm going to make a turn again, go through the bicone, and up the first 2 11-ohs of my original 3 11-ohs. So if you can get them all at once, it's good. If not, 2, one at a time. So like that. And this is what I have. So I'm setting up the cup for my bezel. All right, get that done and come back and we'll continue. Okay, we're back. So this is what I have so far. So now I'm going to pick up an 11-0, a bugle bead, and an 11-0. So I'm exiting this center seed bead right here. Just going to sew through the center one of this group of 3. We'll put this one on. Like that. 11-0, bugle bead, 11-0, through this one, 11-0, bugle bead, 11-0, through this one, 11-0, bugle bead, 11-0, just turning my piece a little bit, through the original middle bead plus the 11-0 bugle bead 11-0 that you put on at first, just like that. So here I'm setting up from ouch, for my next round of beads. So just get to this point and come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we are exiting the 11-0 after a bugle bead. So I have right here. So I'm just going to pick up a 15-0. I'm going to sew through the next 11-0 bugle bead 11-0. Not this guy, but the 11-0 bugle bead 11-0 that we put on. So I have a little 15-0 sitting in between the 11-0s. I'm just going to do that all the way around. So 15-0, sewing through the bugle bead 11-0, bugle bead, 15-0, through this 11-0 bugle bead, 11-0, one more time, 15-0, through the 11-0 bugle bead and 11-0, and I want you to exit through the that first little 15-0 you put on, just like that. All right, so get that done and we'll continue. We're back, so we're going to get the stone in a second. So I'm exiting that little 15-0, and I'm just going to take a pen or something, not with the point sticking out, but something I can kind of push down the beads in there a little bit. So that'll just give you a little bit more room, flattening the beads out inside. You don't really have to do this. I think this is the first time I've done it, but I thought, well, maybe that'll help. All right, so there we go. Now I'm going to put my stone in, and you're going to put it in, and you're going to make sure that it's sitting nicely. And it's going to pop out and it's not going to stay. It's going to be, we're going to have to really tighten it up to get it to stay perfectly. But here, so now I'm pretty good. I'm in. So I'm exiting the 15-0. All I'm going to do is sew through the 15-0s and the bugles. I'm skipping the 11-0s. So going through this bugle bead, I'm just holding it with my thumb. Not in a death grip, just holding it down. And then I'm going to go through the 15-0s. So we're kind of making like prongs. Pulling inward a little bit as I go around. Bugle bead, pulling inward, giving it a little press. 15-0, and take your time with this part and make sure that you're pulling it tight and that you're not pulling it out of shape. You're being absolutely gentle with it, but you want to make sure that it's going to stay. Here, going around again, pulling inward. Every time you go through, pull inward a little bit. Bugle bead, pulling inward a little bit. 15-0, pulling inward, and I'm making sure my stone is staying nice and straight. It's very important, this part, for the stone to stay in. So take your time with this. And if you get to the point, like I'm going to stop right here, if you get to the point where you can't get through a bead, change your needle size. Just go down a needle size so that you can, so that it fits. You don't want to break those bugle beads. I have done that. All right, so just get to this point and then come back. So we're exiting a 15-0 at the moment. So just get to this point and come on back and we'll continue. Okay, let's get the second round of bugle beads on. So exiting the 15-0, I'm just going to sew right through this 11-0 right here. I'm going to pick up a bugle bead and I'm going to sew through this next 11-0. Just going to place that, whoops, I'm going to place that right under the previous bugle bead. I actually picked up two. Let's get rid of that one. There we go. All right, try that again. Pick up a bugle bead and sew through the next 11-0. Now we're going to pick up a 15-0 and sew through the next 11-0. Pick up a bugle bead, sew through the next 11-0. Just moving my piece so it's easy for me to sew. Pick up an 11-0, up 15-0, sew through the next 11-0. Pick up a bugle bead, sew through this one. 15-0, sew through this one. Pick up your last bugle bead, sew through the 11-0. 15-0, through the next 11-0, and on through the bugle bead, and another 11-0. And you can go all the way around again, securing it if you like, if it doesn't feel secure enough. And then come on back and we'll continue. Okay, we're back, and my bezel's good. If I can kind of throw it around and it's not coming out, I can push it from the bottom. Nothing's happening. It seems pretty strong. Remember, we still haven't sewn in our threads yet, so like don't go crazy. But you want to pull both threads. So I just did go around a little bit with this thread. So I'm exiting a bugle bead. So what I'm going to do, and you can really do this any way, I'm just going to find a way to get to the top here because I want to use the thread that's left over to reinforce my band a little bit. So I'm exiting a bugle. I'm going to go through this 11-0. I'm going to go through the 11-0 underneath like that. Then I'm going to pop through this 11-0 right here. I'm going to go through, I'm just making a turn, and I'm going to go through this one. Now any way you can do this is fine, like any path, as long as you're not, creating a new thread path. You're just going, through the beads, the beads we've already gone through on the same thread path. And then I'm just going to go down all of these beads. So all I did was maneuver my thread, so I came out of one of these edge beads, and then I'm just going straight down like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a turn and go through this one. Then I'm going to go straight down all of these beads. So this whole row, pearls, 11-0s. If you can't get them all at once, do them, one at a time, like that. And I'm going to do this all the way down. I'm just going to make a turn, like that. Whoops. Like that. There we go. And then down this group. And this is just going to reinforce everything. And I just figured we'd use the threads that we had so we didn't have to keep adding threads. And now you're going to take that stop bead off because you have another thread here, and you're going to maneuver. I think you're coming out of, at this point you might be coming out of a bicone. You're just going to go right through the beads until you get to the top. So, just again, I think we'll be coming out right here. So just sew through the 11-0 bicone, 11-0, make a turn, and do the same thing on this side. If you're not coming out in the same place I am, as I said, just make right angle turns until you are exiting one of the top beads, and then we're just sewing down through all the beads again. And this is going to make the ring, give the ring, it's going to reinforce the ring so it's nice and rigid. All right, so get all that done and then come back and we'll continue. Okay, we're back. So this is what we have. And what you want to do when you get to this point is you want to make sure you sew all your threads in, all the loose threads in, and do a little half hitch knot. The more you go through these guys, I'm sure you're noticing, the nicer the beads sit. And then give it a little pull, flatten it out, make sure everybody's nice and straight. Should be this nice lacy look here. So you should have a thread coming out of this seed bead right here. If you don't, add one. You want to come out right here. And we're gonna set up to sew the ring together. So I'm gonna use a contrasting color so it's easy for you to see what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna pick up 3 11-ohs. I'm just gonna sew right through this one. Pick up 3 11-ohs. Sew through this one. So one end is gonna have the unit sticking out and the other end's gonna be just straight. So get that done and then we'll continue. Okay, we're back. So let's sew this together. So I'm just going to put it on my finger so it's easy for me to hold it. So this is what it looks like. So now we're going to start making, attaching the right angle weave units. So yours will all be one color, but I'm just doing it so you can see the difference in the units. So I'm exiting this gold one here, picking up an 11-oh. I'm going to sew through this one. Picking up an 11-oh. Sewing back through the original. And now I have one unit on. I'm going to sew through this one and then through this one. I'm going to add 3 11-ohs and sew through this top seed bead of the next unit. That. Now I want to add, make this into a right angle weave unit. So exiting here, I'm going to sew through this one. And then I'm going to pick up another 11-oh and sew back through this one. That's what it looks like. 3 11-ohs through the last one like that. Now I just want to make that last one into a right angle weave unit. So picking up an 11-oh, sewing through this one, picking up an 11-oh, sewing back through this one, and now my ring is closed. I'm going to sew through this seed bead, and then I'm just going to reinforce my connection by sewing down through this line, across this one, back down through this line of beads. Come on, you guys. There we go. And a couple more rows if you feel it needs it. And then you're going to tie this thread off and then come back and we'll do the outside embellishment. Okay, we're back. Now, if you want, you can just leave the ring this way and it will conform to your finger, just like a peyote ring would, or it's a little more not loose, but it's a little more flexible. But I'm going to put this edging on. I'm going to do pearls. So I'm going to grab my 2mm pearls, and I've taken about 30 inches of thread, 25 maybe, and I've put on a stop bead in the middle again, because I'll just do one side with one end and one side with the other. It's just easy that way for me. All right, and I've just sewn through just one line of the beads here. So here's my stop bead. I've sewn through, and now I'm just going to, excuse me, make this turn like that, and I'm just going to add a 2mm pearl all the way around. So here's one. You can do a 2mm, as I was saying earlier, you can do 2mm, maybe a 2mm rondelle, maybe a fire polish. It depends on if it fits. If you do it and it starts to sort of the ring buckles, or it's, starts to push it out of shape, then you know that bead is not going to fit. Okay, I can't get to the holes this far away, so just keep going all the way around with your pearls in between each of these seed beads, all the way around on this side, all the way around on the other side, and when you're done, come back. We'll sew your threads in and come back and we'll finish up. Okay, we're back and we're done. So here's our ring. So don't know if you can tell, but I kind of messed up my pearls on the edge on this one. So I'm going to take it out and redo it. I think I missed going through one of the 11-0s, and it really does make a difference, you know, so you really have to be very careful. Very important tension and, you know, just checking your work, especially when you're doing a lot of close work like this. But here it is. I think it's really a fun ring. If you don't want a wide ring like this, what if you just extended it and made a bracelet? What if you added some more pearl rows or more bicone rows and extended it and made it into a narrow bracelet if maybe you don't want a super wide bracelet? So a couple of options. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.